Great, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wise Lives. My name's Nick. I'm one of the podcast and YouTube show hosts here. This is Delroy Hall. Very pleased to have you with us today, Delroy.
Hi Nick, and hi people.
Welcome. This is one of the episodes I've been looking forward to interviewing, just to get to spend a bit of time with you.
All right.
Variously, I understand that you know, Delroy, your background. You've hopefully you get to tell us a bit. You've been an athlete.
Yep.
You are published. You've been an author. You've worked in the academic world.
Yep.
You've been a pastor for about 30 years.
Yep.
You're now the chaplain of Sheffield United Football Club, so in the Premier League of the soccer in the United Kingdom. So plenty to go at.
I'm still only 21.
Me too. I can't believe it. So, love to hear a little bit of your journey, and we'll dig in maybe later on. We'll get to dig into what does it mean to be a chaplain of a big Premier League club today. Mm-hmm. It's a good time to be a part of football in Sheffield. Hooray! That is, depending upon which side of the Sheffield football divide you sit on. Mm-hmm. Perhaps we'll try and bridge that divide, and we'll have to invite your good friend who's also who's also the chaplain of Sheffield Wednesday. The other team in this city. We've already got the next podcast booked. There we go. So let's crack on. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get to be a Christian? What are some of the main kind of stuff that's happened there?
Raised in a Christian home. Parents are of the Windrush generation.
The Windrush generation. So they came over from
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
They met here in the UK, in Newark, Nottinghamshire. Dad came...
Rock and roll, man.
Absolutely. Dad came about 52. And Mum came a couple of years later. They met and then they married. I think it's the first Caribbean marriage in Newark in 1957.
Okay.
And then I was born 59. Lived in Newark for 10 years. Moved to Leicester. And then obviously educated at Leicester. And then became a Christian when I was 20. But not in church. I was coming home one night from work and there was a guy who I met. I've only seen once since. His last name is Dorrington, so if anybody knows him, please, I'd love to meet him. It's either Ian or David Dorrington, I think it was.
If you're listening,
yeah. And he spoke to me about Jesus. I'd heard it all before because I was raised in a Christian home, but on that night, he said to me, so this was Wednesday night, Leicester City Centre, and then he spoke to me about Jesus, and then he said to me, what are you going to do about it? So I said, well, what do you want to do about it? He says, well, receive Jesus in your life. And there on Wednesday night, I accepted the Lord in my life. Didn't tell anybody for 2 weeks. And then so the church I was going to at the time, I was the last young person not to be a Christian. So, I was young, I was 20 at the time. Yeah. And then I told folks that I became a Christian, and gosh, it was crazy and all the rest of it, because, people were praying for me and all the rest of it. So that was part of my walk. Became a Christian at 20, then I became a member of the Church God of Prophecy in 2 years later, when I was 22. I was in Leicester.
Right, so you're a Midlands lad?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Midlands lad.
And we were chatting on earlier a little bit, weren't we? And you were saying that education stuff was pretty tough for you to begin with. Because Delroy's got a PhD now, but that's not how it kind of started out for you.
No, not at all. My mother, though, just to backtrack for a second, my mother said that when I was a kid, I just used to ask loads of questions, and she had no idea where these questions came from. So school was kind of, as young people say, random or standard. School was school. The subject I really liked was biology, because I liked the teacher. She was really nice looking, so that's really kind of like the subject. But really didn't click much at school. Left at 16 with a string of CSEs, then took some O-levels, GCEs for those who remember.
Yeah.
Took 5, and I was saying to Nick earlier on, I remember the Friday, I was working at Severn Trent Water Authority, phoned Mum, the results have come. I said, what are they? I heard the envelope open, Maths U, English U, Technical Drawing U, Physics U, General Studies U, 5 U's. Wow. So I was absolutely devastated. For months, actually. I guess I could say I was depressed, really. Yeah. Anyway, I got into another college, but there's an English teacher who kind of took to me, and I took to him. And That's the only O level I got first off, which was English. Failed the others, and then so I got my 2 or 3 years. So the third year, back in the day, for an extra year was 160 quid, which doesn't seem much now, but in those days was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I said to Mum, I'm going to go to work and then I'm going to go to night school. Because I think somehow I knew that if you weren't educated, life was kind of pretty grim.
Yeah.
So I decided, right, I've got to just keep going. But my mum said she'd have a chat with my dad. And that was Tuesday night. And then Thursday morning came down and £160 on the table, cash. So I went to college, did an extra year, then got the O-levels I needed. I wanted to be a physiotherapist because I was involved in athletics at the time as a 400-metre hurdler. But somehow every qualification I got, the goalposts just seemed to kind of keep moving. So I got a job at British Telecom and I stayed there for 14 years until I took the Queen's Shilling in '93, took redundancy and trained as a teacher and psychotherapist.
Wow,
so,
that's a shift.
Yeah, major shift. But I talk, when people say, what's the connection between British Telecom and counselling? So I say points and connections. So, and communication. Yeah. So at that point, just doing a series of certificates, not got a first degree, and went to university at 38.
Wow. So let's backtrack again. You just threw it in there. Okay. You were a 400-metre hurdler.
Okay.
So what's the athletics? How did that fit in with life?
It was very good. Well, what happened when I was 15, I had this real fear of getting a beer belly when I left school. Didn't know you had to drink beer to get a beer belly, but I was really kind of scared of just kind of getting really so forth. Right. So I thought, well, I need to keep fit. So I joined an athletics club and did sprinting. It was okay-ish. And then I remember going to an AGM at the club and there was a hurdles coach and he said we needed more male hurdles. And I remember thinking, I ain't doing that. Yeah. Because I remember when I was 11, I did hurdles at the senior school and I remember falling over a hurdle and ripping my ankle and I still got the big scar to this day. So I can't put off it. That was a Tuesday. Turned up for training the Thursday night and my coach at the time never called me Delroy. Roy, you're doing hurdles tonight? I said, no, I'm not. So we nearly got into an argument. Anyway, I got into hurdles and then I was kind of the butt of the kind of squad really because I didn't hurdle them. I was jumping them at the time. But I went into a race, the Leicester and Rutland 3A Championships. 61.3, people say it was a great time and I just thought, yeah, I just did it. And that was it. Just took to it in 1976, 77, trained really hard because I call it the man killer of the track in terms of the training.
Right.
And so
it's 400 metres of running and it's hurdling.
That's right,
yeah. So that's pretty grueling.
Yeah, so the training in the winter time was certainly weight, circuit training, cross country, endurance, and that type of thing. And to this day, I still love circuit training.
There's something wrong there for a start, isn't there? Let's be fair.
So
you did well?
Yeah, I was trying really hard at it. Was number 2 in Great Britain. So if anybody knows English School Championships, I was silver medalist in 1979. Midland silver medalist same year, and 3A's silver medalist the same year. So never quite got the goal, but 3. Yeah. So it was a good time. But one of the things I learned then, which I didn't fully appreciate until I'm older, is the discipline. Turning out, training in the winter time in particular, when it was cold and wet and I had to do runs and stuff, and I knew I was going to see my coach at the weekend or the following week and he'd be asking me what happened in the sessions, how did the sessions go. So I didn't realise that it was really kind of setting me up for life really. So I'm really grateful for those early years.
And has that kind of rolled over into the way that you approach Christianity or kind of daily life, that sense of discipline? You still like circuit training for a start?
Yeah, I've not done it for a little while, but certainly still keeping fit now, and certainly the whole thing about getting up in the morning, praying, devotion, those type of things, which is a discipline, which, you know, if you speak to most athletes, they don't always feel like training, they don't always feel like doing some of the hard stuff. We don't always feel like getting up and praying, but we do. That's a part of the kind of discipline because it's kind of building up and going somewhere with it. So it's discipline for that, but certainly if you speak to my wife, she'll say that I'm very disciplined about food. I don't like eating late at night. So if somebody says, we're meeting at 7:30 to eat, I thought, oh, God. So I don't like eating late at night. And certain things I will do, not do, and that goes back to kind of
that kind of focus and upbringing. That's cool. So you're working for BT, and then you're a Christian at this point. How did you integrate faith into kind of everyday life, the workplace, and at some point, obviously got married at some point?
Yeah, I did. Integration to life. I had a view. I'm not in terms of gifting and stuff like that, I'm not really an evangelist, I'm more a teacher. However, I just think that if you're working with people in a day in, day out, I think one of the best ways is actually to live. So you live a Christian life being a Christian. You don't necessarily have to be speaking to people chapter and verse.
Yeah.
But what I discovered, certainly working for British Telecom, that I remember one particular guy, I was told I wouldn't get on with him. He was an ardent atheist, but we got on like a house on fire. We got on really, really well. And I noticed over a period of time, on a Friday night, so the Friday afternoons, the lad went to the pub, I didn't. And Ray would go, and then he would come back and he'd talk and he'd share stuff with me that he wouldn't share with anybody else. And I kind of realised after a while that if you're a Christian and you live in an environment, what you do, you preach with your life.
Yeah.
So you live in a way, and I just think for young people, it's a prime time. You live very countercultural. It doesn't mean to say for a woman, you wear long dresses and high neck, all that type of stuff, but just how you live and how you speak draws people to you. And with Ray, we chatted and he shared some very personal things about his life, which I know he didn't share with the other lads. So I kind of figured out that if you're a Christian and you're genuine and sincere, that will draw people to you because you're a trusted pair of hands. Yeah. And that was my kind of way of kind of witnessing to people, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. And I guess that it's still part of the way it works for you today. So at the moment, you work in a university environment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My new manager, for about a year now, when we met, he said to me that he's never really given much thought to religion and Christianity, but he says the two chaplains and myself has made him rethink. Not because we've preached to him, but just how we live, how we respond, how we do things. And he just said to me that it's really started to make me think. And that I actually think that if people's road to conversion is over a gradual period of time, usually when they make commitments of faith, they're not messing about because it's been a kind of process. Sometimes when somebody just comes to church and then it's an instant thing, there's question marks around that. But I think if there's been a kind of journey and people have seen you live in a way and seen you maybe under stress, under difficulties and how you respond, that is a brilliant witness to kind of draw people to Christ.
And not just you being perfect, is it?
No, not at all.
It's you, how do you work through the hard times? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with conflict, which happens pretty much every day, in some form in our life.
Yeah.
So, and the Bible, Paul talks about us being Christ's ambassadors. In other words, that we represent Jesus to the world around us.
And I think the other thing I'll say that if things do happen between you and somebody who's not a Christian, there's nothing wrong with a Christian saying to somebody who's not, I'm sorry. Sometimes we can say some things either out of term or a bit harsh. There's nothing wrong with saying sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to say sorry really quickly, even if I don't necessarily feel the need to, because, I mean, what have you got to lose if you say sorry for stuff? That's cool. So you've over the years, you've obviously somewhere the academic stuff kicked in, and you've picked up a PhD along the way. I'm sure that was a little bit harder work than that.
Yeah, a lot of hard work.
And how have you found the balance between your skills, stuff you're good at, and what God's asked you to do? So sometimes we can work to our strengths, can't we? And we're like, great, I am this because I'm great at this. But actually, sometimes you find they don't always interact. God just says, listen, do this, mate. I want you to do this. So how do you feel about kind of, have you been able to use the work to your strengths, as it were, in the Christian life and in normal employment and so on?
I think it depends on your environment and the context, I think. Because one of the things, of course, you can be highly skilled, but if you're in the wrong environment, it can be a detriment to you. Because then you are highly skilled and you have kind of lots of thinking, and you can be quite frustrated because there's not the environment for that to kind of flourish. So that's happened, and that's happened to me. And I think when I remember as a pastor, part of the thing that I learned was journaling, which is not a part of kind of Pentecostal tradition. But what I did, I journaled, I should think, daily for about 12 years. But in the process, what happened, I was developing and growing. And then what happens, you kind of get to a point whereby you just don't fit anymore because you become more aware of certain things and you share that with people and they don't get it because they've kind of not been on that journey.
Yeah.
So there can be a balance, but what I've discovered, and I think what's really helped me in terms of my kind of the PhD studies, because I did it in pastoral theology, was there's a recognition of sociology, psychology, counselling, all the disciplines, but then once you've read all this stuff, then how do we understand it theologically? And for me, that's just a huge excitement, how you look at things. So sociology says this, and you can look at all the disciplines, science and medicine and so forth, and then when you've looked at all this, well, what's a kind of biblical response to this? And I just think it's kind of fascinating, and that kind of challenges and stimulates me.
Yes, I can see that. And so okay, let's dig it. Let's go there a little bit. So you work in a secular, obviously most universities are secular, they are in the UK, environment. You research people and you're a Christian and God is real. So how do you bring in theological reflection and the reality of God? I mean, are you allowed to write about it, or is it just something that you hold, or has it affected the way that you write or the way that you research?
Yes and no. So secular organisations, so most of the students don't know I'm a Christian or a minister, but these days they can find me anyway if they want to, and some have.
They can just Google you.
Yeah, that's right, they have. Now, I actually think you can teach people certain things from the Bible without saying John's Gospel says this. So one of the things is very common for many young people, not all, but for many, is friends with benefits. So that's something that's used and said quite a lot. So, I listen to that and then I say to students after I've listened, are you happy with that? That's all. And I've not heard anybody say, yes, I am. But the privacy of that room allows people to be maybe open for the first time. So certainly with women, quite often they want something from guys. They want more commitment, more dedication. So the friends with benefits, in terms of who I've met so far, the question I ask, they're not happy with it.
Yeah.
So my Christian faith informs me without them knowing I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Also, I will say to some young people, in terms of the relationship they have, so they may come having problems with holding a relationship. So I may say to them, okay, if you meet somebody, say tonight, when would you sleep with them? Well, it depends. Sometimes the same night or whatever. So do you know there's 8 or 9 stages of relationship development before you get to that? And you're kind of short-circuiting it. So again, that's a very Christian response. It's making them think.
So in today's instant culture, instant gratification stuff, kind of making yourself feel happy, or at least thinking that that's what you're aiming for. Sure. You're bringing, you're actually allowing the research to bring a moral challenge and just say, listen, guys, that's not even healthy if you jump some of those stages.
Well, in fact, my research was very much different to what I kind of share in the room. But I guess what happens with a PhD, I think, masters so, but PhD more so, it helps you to think critically, so you think deeper. So I don't. The students keep coming back, so I don't think they feel judged. Yeah. But I think it's about helping people to think. And it may be that they may not become Christian, but they may say, you know what, before I kind of just dive into bed with somebody, I need to kind of think about this a little bit. Yeah. My research was kind of totally different, but I think what happens, you learn skills and you learn how to kind of think critically about certain things. And I just think that there's ways in which I just think that I'm in the room with a student and I just see myself maybe as planting a seed. Yeah, it's there, and maybe sometime later I'm not a part of the scene. They've moved on, perhaps well into their careers. They meet somebody along the way that talks to them about Jesus, and who knows what we do today that might actually grow 2 years' time, 3 years' time. We don't know, but we need to kind of plant seeds.
Totally. And I mean, the times when I interact, say, with this, sometimes in the city in Sheffield where we live, I'll interact with the different learning kind of environments or the networking environments with business folk or with people from the third sector and so on. And what I try and do is I just try and, so I suppose it's not being moralistic, but I'm trying to get a kind of, have you thought about the values behind what you're actually saying, that and calling people to a higher to think higher, to think deeper about the values behind things, because our behaviour is usually a reflection of what's really deep down. And so, just try and bring that Christian kind of values in without being in your face and slapping people around with it.
I think I've been a counsellor now for nearly 30 years. But up to this point, I've never been reported. Yeah, I think I can be quite challenging, but students haven't not come back because I found it been challenging. I think they perhaps sense there's a level of sincerity and genuineness. I'm actually on their side, but it's never kind of heavy-handed.
That's it, isn't it? And Jesus said, by the people will know that you're my disciple because you love each other. Yeah. So it's that whole thing about being authentic and actually loving the person first. Yeah. And that earns you the right sometimes to speak in. To whatever degree. Sure. So I'm going to ask us in the next podcast to pick up particularly about your whole being a chaplain of a major football team, because I want to ask some questions that football fans might be interested in. Okay. But let's just go there for a couple of minutes before we come to a landing. So you are now, it's a voluntary role, isn't it?
It is a voluntary role,
Sheffield United Football Club. Yeah. You're the chaplain. What does that mean?
Well, the job description is simply being there, and I call it holy loitering. I'm just there, but there really to be a listening ear if there's a crisis, and we all have crises, don't we? So what I've done with the footballers in particular, the first year I kind of kept a distance, but one of the footballers said, "We know when you turn up. We all see you when we're training." And then I spoke with the captain beginning of last season, because I've been there for a year and I wanted a little bit more involvement with them, and he made comment that the players actually respected the fact that I kind of kept a distance, respected their privacy. Now if they're training, they'll stop and say hello, shake my hand, we'll shake hands. I go into the gym, I won't stay long, I'll go around to all the players and say, "Oh, Revs, how you doing? You all right, mate?" Shake hands.
So you're known as Revs?
Yes, I'm known as Revs, known as Revs.
So you're there. You try and interact with the players, but there's a big staff team behind a major football club.
Yeah, there is. So the players, the manager, the background staff with the players, the office staff, and as time is going on, I'm beginning to know not all the fans, of course, but beginning to know fans and know that I'm the chaplain. And, really? So it's I think there's a couple there. They've been together. They've been living together for about 30 years, and they say they're going to get married one day at half time, and I'll do it. So I'll give them the card. So we'll see what happens. So it's about being there at a point of crisis. I think one of the things with footballers, and certainly now in the Premier League, who do you trust? That's the thing, and it's competitive. And people see it as an outside, as being very glamorous, lots of money, but I think the opposite is possibly true, if I'm going to be honest.
So it's, again, the stuff that we're talking about, you're talking about integrity and just really being there for people, walking alongside them, loving them, and as a result, sowing peace, which is one of the main things. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, isn't it? You're sowing peace and hope and grace into people's lives. Wow. Yeah, so that's me. How about that? So thank you, Delroy. Thank you. Thanks, man. That was cool. Okay. I want to ask you loads more questions about what it's like to see the behind the scenes of a big football team. Okay. But would you pray for us? You just pray for that sense of integrity and the walk in the everyday. That'd be great. Thanks, man.
Father and friend, we thank you for your love and your care to us. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for who you are. Thank you for calling us into your family, but not us alone, but you want more people to be in your family. Help us, Lord, to live in one sense an ordinary life, but it's an extraordinary life because of your Spirit living in us. So for those who are listening, hearing, whatever the work they may be doing, teachers, nurses, managers, having to deal with the pressures and stresses of life, may they show Christ in their conflicts and in their stresses and in their lives as husbands, fathers, mothers, wives and workers. Father, we thank you that you are a good God and you're still with us. And thank you, Lord, that you live within us outside of the few hours we gather together in church on a Sunday. And we thank you for your grace, your love and your power in our lives. Amen.
Amen. Brilliant. Be blessed. We'll see you guys soon.